Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to look at one of my favorite films, at least childhood films, Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. Now, first, I'm going this film came out in 1991. At first, I'm going to talk about the film. Then I'm going to talk about what it's kind of based on, what it's not really based on, and Disney's annoying. We'll get into that. You want to hear my more rants about Disney being annoying? Remember the Titans. This is a similar problem, though. It's worse. It's far worse when they take real life events and make a fictional story about them. But let's get to the fictional story, because prior to planning on doing this, I did not realize that Sonora Carver, as she becomes Webster, I believe is her maiden name, was a real human being who really did dive horses, because you can't tell. So it's kind of like based on real life. Not really, but we'll get there. So this film came out in 1991. I'll jump to the IMDb page here. It is rated G. It's about an hour and a half long. It's a love story. So this is definitely teen focused. There's nothing really. You could probably watch it with younger kids, but there's a little bit of love story. There's not much of a love story. There's a little bit of smoking, probably some swearing, but that's about it. Now, this story takes place during the Great Depression. You have Sonora. Her parents are dead. They don't explain why. She and her sister are living with their aunt. It's during the Great Depression. Her aunt decides she's going to give her to the state and keep her sister Arnett. She decides to run away. And she finds a circus, and she eventually signs on as a stable helper to this diving act. Basically, you have a diving girl. She gets up on a very, very high, almost 11-foot, couple stories high scaffolding and a horse is sent up a ramp, and she jumps on the horse and dives into water on top of the horse. Yes, this really did happen. Yes, this was really a thing. So you have basically in the act, she's the stable girl. You have the diving girl. You have the owner, and then you have his son Al. Let me pull up what on earth is his name. Doc W.F. Carver. Doc Carver. That is who this is. Yes, this was a person. He was an actual person. But, and so you have them, his son Al, Doc Carter, and her, and then the diving girl. And one day Al wins a horse that they end up calling Lightning, in a bet. And him and Sonora train him to be a diving horse. But then him and his dad get into a fight, and Al leaves. He promises to right her, but his father kind of threatened him to the extent of, Sonora's really young, don't go messing around with her, do not mess up her life, which almost the indication of, don't knock her up, do not get her pregnant. Again, this is during the Great Depression. So he leaves, promising to right her. What on earth is the name of the current diving girl? Marie. And yes, technically, I believe Marie was a real person. No, not this person. She was the diving girl. She tries to ride Lightning. Basically, Sonora says, don't use your heels. Don't kick him in your heels, because he bucked her. And that's what he does to Marie. She dislocates her shoulder. Sonora does the act with Lightning. Marie gets pissed and basically threatens Doc, says, I want more pay, I want a bigger dressing room, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it's the Great Depression, I can't do that. So she leaves. And Sonora travels around with him. He hires on another stable boy that Sonora had met earlier. And the three of them travel, whether it's for a year or so, and they're trying to find acts because it's the Great Depression. And Al writes her, but his father burns the letters, so Sonora never sees them. And then one day it's raining. Doc and the young man, what on earth is his name? Here, pull up his name. Clifford, who's young. He's younger. I think he's younger than Sonora. He's probably. They go off to try to secure an act. Al shows up. He had been in Atlantic City getting them work. And he comes back. Lightning is sick. So his dad comes back. Dad shows up like, we can't find work. Al eventually reveals that he's gotten them work in Atlantic City. They head to Atlantic City. On the way, Doc dies. He's an old man. He lays down and dies. And they bury him and they go. And Sonora jumps using Marie's other horse. And she goes into the water with her eyes open. And it stings a little bit. And she goes blind. And now, right before she jumps here in Atlantic City, Al proposes marriage and she agrees. But then she goes blind. She doesn't want to marry him. She's not letting her ride. He brings back Marie. But her and our Clifford conspire to lock Marie in her dressing room and have Sonora jump blind, which she does. And she jumps, and it shows like she jumps blind for the next 11 years, and nobody ever knows, and she marries Al. So that is what this story is about. Sonora is very much kind of, I wouldn't say outcasty. She's spunky and stubborn, and she has a will of her own. She's very, very smart in a sense. And it's kind of a source of rebellion and rebellious young love. It's a very fun, romantic story and a coming-of-age story. That's very much what I would consider. It's more coming of age than it is romance. Romance is just kind of thrown in there. So as a movie on its own, it is fantastic. I love the look of the 1930s, which is when the film takes place. We'll get to the book. And it's a good look particularly if you're studying the Great Depression and almost the circus lifestyle to an extent, and kind of how these different acts would go on. The book is also an even better look. So let's get to this. This is what this film has in common with the real Sonora Webster Carver. She went blind. She was a diving girl. She worked with Doc Carver. She married Al Carver. She went blind diving. She had a sister named Arnett, because she does have a little sister. I think that's it. And she lost sight in Silver City, New Jersey, on Steel Pier in New Jersey. That's pretty much it. And yes, the real Sonora Carver was older, and she saw this, and she pretty much says it's like, they got that I dove horses and I went blind. It's kind of, to her, that was really it that they got right in this. So the book, which I found out and I did review, so you can check that out. It would have come out this Monday if you're watching this, or this comes out Friday. And yes, it was filmed a while ago. As opposed, this is being filmed in October. I think that was filmed in spring, before I broke my leg. And yes, I broke my leg early this summer, in the summer of 2022. In a rock climbing gym, because I did something stupid and jumped when I wasn't supposed to. But back to this. So the real Sonora Webster Carver, his mother was not dead. She had multiple siblings. Arnett was, in fact, one of them, though she was closer in age. Her mother pushed her to do this, and she actually, again, said no. He was looking for another Doc was looking for another diving girl, but she eventually talked to him, and then joined them in Florida, which is where he basically was their winter grounds. It's where they basically trained and stuff during the winter, because there wasn't fairs and things during the winter. So, and he had 2 children, Al, and then he had a daughter, and there were 2 acts. And this took place in the 1920s. She joined the act in 1923. So this was not the Great Depression. This was the Roaring 20s when this started. In fact, she marries Al, and I think the Wikipedia says she marries Al in 27, I think. Yeah. No, she marries Al in 1928. And she joins the act in 1923. And I think, and Doc had died the year before. He dies in 27. So, he never even saw the Great Depression. And she traveled with him. And they had in the book, she describes they had a very interesting relationship. No, she does not sleep with him. But he's very protective of her. They do get that kind of right. But not in, Al is with his sister and another set of horses. So they have 5 horses total. Lightning is one of them, but Lightning is female. Lightning dies in California, diving into the ocean and ends up drowning. So, and Doc isn't there. And again, Lightning was female. It was Red Lips that was a little bit more of a finicky horse that she lost her sight on. That was the name of the horse she lost her sight on. And so, but again, she joined it in 20. Al and his sister were running it. When Dad died, he died of a heart attack. He was very protective of Sonora, particularly in the fact that he didn't allow her to dress in the styles of the 1920s. He pushed it more early 19th. So she had longer hair. She was far more conservative in her dress until he died, when she was able to dress more sexy, so to speak, or more in style with the 1920s. And he died of a heart attack in a hospital, I think. So or a stroke. And he was supposed to slow down, and he didn't. And they had a father-daughter relationship. They were very close. She respected him a lot. And then she almost mothered him to an extent. She took care of him, again, like a father-daughter relationship. And I don't know if Al and their daughter was with them. I don't know if he had, do a double check to see if they name his kids. Because he was part of the Wild West. So, my door is open. And that's a cat. You have children. Riding horses. Yeah, let's see if they name his daughter. No, they're just giving Sonora. Because I do not remember what her name was. It may have been Marie. May have been her, his daughter's name was Marie. But again, she went from, they hired another diving girl. At one point in time, they hired Sonora's sister, Annette. And then they hire her again later. She had some issues getting on the horse and getting on naturally. Turns out she's left-handed. So Sonora eventually figures that out. It's like, that's why she's not working. That's why it's not working. She does help them out, because she, at least for a period of time, was doing another act in Atlantic City, which is where they anchored, I think, in 27 or 20. They anchored in 1928. Yeah. Atlantic City, yeah. It became their permanent home in 29. So that's where they pretty much were for the rest of her career, was in Atlantic City. And I think the sister still toured around with another diving girl, because she became the head of the act. These two, both Al and his sister, had grown up around this environment. Their dad was part of Wild Bill's Wild West shows back then. So they had literally grown up with this stuff. So they knew the sister knew what she was doing. When Dad died, they moved from Florida to her house in New Jersey. I think, or was it not? Maybe it was upstate New York, wintering there. Sonora and the older sister did not, and Hal's sister did not get along very well. But again, I mean, most of her real life happened in the 20s. And yes, they did continue to stay in Atlantic City into the 30s. Her sister eventually left in 35, and I think the show went into the 40s, actually. And it stopped simply because they didn't have the men. They had to dig the pits for the water and build the whole set and everything, and essentially the war happened. So by this time, she'd been diving for a while. She could read Braille. And their life kind of ended up being kind of sad. She worked for a company that did stuff for the blind. He was a night manager in a motel. And they just kind of, the entertainment, like the fairs and things, died down during the war. And they just never got back to it because they got older. So the film is really good. The book is really good. But they don't really have much to do with each other. So, as I said, this is worse than Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans gets at least more than this. Good. I still love the film. It's very nostalgic for me. I think it's kind of a good family film. It's definitely a coming-age film. The book is really, really good if you're studying the 1920s and 1930s and the sideshow acts, so to speak. Not really the sideshow, but the different small acts in the circus atmosphere of these carnivals. And when you're looking at the communities there, because there's a lot more, because it's her memoir. She wrote this from her memory, probably later in life. And yeah, she probably could have written it because, again, she did learn to read and write in Braille when she went blind. But again, the movie is really fun. It's a really good coming-of-age story. It's an interesting look at the 1930s, as opposed to the book, which is an interesting look at the 1920s into the 1930s. So I really do recommend this film. If you're looking for something fun and a coming-of-age story, I definitely recommend it for girls, particularly teen, middle school girls, or female presenting in that age, because it's a cute story. I mean, there's a little bit of love story, there's a little bit of angst, and it's set in an interesting time period, and horses. What little girl doesn't love horses? My 3-year-old adores horses. And unicorns. Mostly the unicorns, but she's 3. Even by the time you guys see this, she'll still be 3. So that's the end of this review. Please check out A Girl and 5 Brave Horses. I already did that review. Please check out the book. It's really good. I got it online through Amazon for like $3. It's still a really, really good book. And the movie is really fun. If you like what you see, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. I'm covering the Princess Diaries right now, book series wise. I'm following that up with some Tamora Pierce book series and the Guardians of Ga'Hoole, and I think I'm going back to Make Cabin near the end of the year, along with other stuff like this. The Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken, the nonfiction, some of the fiction, some of the children's picture books, all sorts of stuff. Check out the rest of my stuff. I have plenty. I'm almost always consistent. You're always going to find a video at 8 o'clock. Comes in at 8 a.m. every Monday, and I have some sort of film or YouTube review of a YouTube, normally historical stuff. When I do YouTube review of YouTube channels, normally it's nonfiction, just because I have trouble finding stuff. In this case, I think doing a lot of ballets this year to counteract the princess stuff, as well as History Tea Time with Lindsay Holiday to, again, counteract the Princess Diaries stuff. So, again, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. And yes, normally I have that door closed, but there's now a cat in my lap. It shows up. So, like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.